The second bill that I've got is House Bill 123. The purpose of that bill is to change the governance of the existing PAC board. Now, how do we do that? We take the core, and George can speak to it, we take the core of the existing PAC board and fundamentally leave those individuals who serve as volunteers, leave that intact. However, we become much more inclusive as to who else can be added to the PAC board going forward. It's been interesting to me that there's been no advocacy individuals that have been allowed to participate in the PAC board. I think we're going to change that with House Bill 123. There have been, by the way, you know, if you're going to have a guarantee that says 4-year public universities, 4-year private universities, or the 2-year system in our state will have to honor these tuition payments, we have nobody from the 13 private schools, 4-year schools, on the PAC board. We'll change that by adding someone from the private schools. Because whether you like it or not, there are people who bought the PAC contract who may not want their child, or may not let their child go to Auburn or Alabama or Troy. Or I have 3 daughters, and they went to University of Alabama, Montevallo, and Troy. I covered the bases pretty well with my girls. You know, but one of my girls may have said, I want to go to Judson. I might want to go to, right, Samford University. Well, those 13 or 14 universities are themselves not represented in any way on the PAC board. So what we're going to do is we're going to expand the PAC board, make it much more inclusive of the stakeholder groups that need to be there. And another critical component is that we're going to add to the PAC board the individual who will be elected in Bill number 3, who will be elected to serve as the chairman of the PAC Advisory Task Force. I'll talk about that in just a second. The other aspect of that House Bill 123 that's critical, I think, for going forward on the governance side is the fact that, as I shared with the Treasurer's Office this morning, and I've shared with other people, I stand before you as a state legislator. I've been in the legislature for 12 years. I'm not a new kid on the block. And I also stand before you as someone who possesses state securities licenses. I'm Series 6, 63, and Series 7 licensed. It means I can sell everything up to and including pork bellies. The fact is that I have a base of knowledge about the securitization aspect of the financial promises made in these contracts. Not that I'm using that for anything other than the public good here, but folks, I want you to know I have been gravely concerned beginning, well, I'd say more than a year ago, year and a half ago, before the market began to tank, that the PAC board needed a little more aggressive and transparent relationship with their consultants who have been advising them to stay, in my opinion, too far, too heavily, too much invested in equities at a time when the market was tanking. Now, folks, I can tell you this, because many of you saw your 401k become a 101k. All right? You saw your own investments begin to tank. But one thing that you may have done, and I appreciate what the congressman said, is we have to treat, as he does, your money like it's your money and our money like it's your money. Everybody's got to treat the money like it's sacred here. Well, what happened is that I think that, in my opinion, and I'll stand on this for the next couple of weeks in the session, we needed to be much more responsive about the recommendations being made by the paid consultants from California who were advising the PAC board. And the PAC board relied upon the paid consultants from California. But the fact is, folks, the PAC board did not make systemic investment allocation changes until 9 months after the market began and fully tanked. You know, if you did that with your own funds, well, that's a crapshoot. But folks, this is a defined benefit plan. If you're a public employee, if you're a military or active duty retiree, if you have retired from public service in the public realm, you have an opportunity to participate in a defined benefit retirement plan, correct? Now, what does a defined benefit plan mean? It means it defines a benefit out to some point in time in the future. If you are state government, federal government, military, you may have worked for 10 and 15 and 19 and a half years, and if you're in the military and you got to 19 and a half years, you hope you weren't riffed out. I served time in the Army. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? You were hoping you didn't get a riff. You didn't get a reduction in force that didn't let you get to the 20 years, but you knew that you had a promise out here when you served there. The contracts are the defined benefit, yet I will tell you, it's in my opinion, that the investment allocations, and I'll die on my grave on this point, we were not investing those funds as if they were a defined benefit out here. They were too heavily, too aggressively invested in equities. Now what's happened? In the last 4 months, the PAC board, based on the recommendations from the consultants from California, have now moved 80% of the funds from equities, when the market has begun to go back up the last 4 months, into all fixed income at 1 to 2% yields. Y'all figure this out. We don't need some nimnut from California that we're paying handsome sums and fees to tell us that we ought to go cash when the market's going up. My gosh, if they ran this thing down when the market was tanking, why don't they ride the way back up? I don't get it. Well, one thing's for certain, House Bill 123 will fundamentally and systemically, Congressman, because you deal with systemic changes in Washington, where we have to make them. We've got to make systemic changes because also in 123, it will direct that the new PAC board, if created by the legislature, will have certain mandates to it. And those mandates will make sure that forever going in the future, until we play out these 21 or 22 years of commitments, that there will be floors that people cannot fall through anymore. At the same time, we got to be transparent. There has to be monthly, and I asked the state treasurer's office today, George. They were there in the meeting I had. I asked them about putting stuff available for people to look at, and the investment allocations, whatever else, and the standard response I get is, well, it's on the web. It's on the website. You know, there's a lot of people that don't know how to turn on a computer. But what they do know is once a year when they get that love letter from the treasurer's office, it says, fully guaranteed the promise is met. And now all of a sudden they're reneging on the promise. We're going to stop that.